JB here. I hope everyone's doing outstanding. Just really quick, it's tough to type my thoughts. It's like maybe half the market being in the green versus the other names getting demolished. It just doesn't compute, right? At least for me, I'm trying to find like, am I normally in a situation where we get a pull in the market? I'm in puts, right? I'm 686 on the SPY was kind of my line in the sand. We got underneath that earlier, and then I'm looking at some of the names. And me, it's not like I loaded the boat at the open on calls for bounces. I'm not loaded. I didn't load the boat last week for this week, or so. Painful in some of the names that I have to zoom. Obviously, not fun on that one. Still have some time, but you never know. Uh, so on the flip, so it's not like I need necessarily to have crazy hedges on. And then on the flip side, I'm looking for puts to play to make money, right? So I mean, obviously the hedges serve two purposes. You want them to make money, but if they do anything, it's to allow you to hold the call positions you have. I'm sitting here watching today, and even the names, and even yesterday, of course, ASML selling off. Lamb Research is down 10%, but those are normally my go-to put hedges. And even I think I was looking at the 200s yesterday. They were expensive on Lamb, and you go look today. Uh, all the 200s are up substantial, but it didn't compute at the time for me. So me, I'd rather be thankful I didn't load the boat on calls for bounces. I'll wait for some opportunities to play for upside. That if you look at what's going on, it's like everybody's playing catch up to why the market's selling off. Even yesterday, it was like I remember I posted that little news clip. It's like why market's selling off. There's the U.S. shot down a drone over from Iranian drone or whatever. I'm like that's not the reason. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm totally off base. But to me, it's like the market's getting revalued from one sector to another. And you look, the Dow just turned red. It was green for most of the day, and more than half my watch list is in the green. And most of the names are retail related, consumer discretionary, the banks. But then on the flip side, you look at the Nasdaq just getting pummeled. And I don't know, it was 20 names were down 10, 12, 15%. SanDisk down. It was $700 in the pre-market. Here it is. It's under 600. And just some of these names, I've had some huge moves. So is this the start of some crash? I keep saying that uh, at least over the last couple of weeks with gold and silver selling off, all the different swings we had in um, some of these names, you thought at some point something would break, right? One of the stories I always remember is when they when the Swiss removed their peg on their currency, right? So back in the day, I don't even know when this happened. Maybe it's 8 years ago. The longer things go, the older I get, and the longer it seems away. But one overnight session, I remember looking, and all of a sudden the Swiss they had their currency pegged so it didn't move, right? So all these other traders and countries, or whatever, use the Swiss as kind of like their backdrop. I don't know exactly how it worked. It's almost similar to the yen carry trade, but not the yen at least fluctuated. The Swiss it didn't, right? That was you could bank on it. It would go nothing, and then one night they just decide we're gonna let our currency freely float and let the market decide its value, and it just destroyed people. I remember some guy came on with a video. He was crying because he lost money. Just he lost investors' money, right? But it just you would think something would break to that, and it hasn't. And you look at some of these names, it's like to me, it's not like the market's pricing in some crazy market crash scenario. So and then sometimes when I get puts, it's like counterintuitive because I want things to go up, right? I have my server robotics calls, which I mean they're taking it on the chin. Where are they now? Well, 13 cents. So yeah, I mean speculative calls, but that bounces, those will be back into the green. So to me, I'm just saving. Well, we'll see. I'm not going to rule out getting put hedges or what have you. But me, I'm looking like today. I'm looking at Shopify, right? And it seems like everybody sold off the basket of names, anything related that might get disrupted by AI. And Shopify looks interesting. Like I could see that trading to 130. And then you go look. When I say 130, I'm like 130 by Friday. And you look at the calls; they're inexpensive. And when for at least how I look at them, right? Someone else might say they're expensive, but I mean, you get the 125s, so 24 by 30. So gets to 130 by Friday, you're looking at 20, 25,000, 2,500% gain. Is that going to happen? The market's saying it's not going to happen, right? Otherwise, the option would be priced like that. But those are the things I'm looking at. And almost got them this morning. I'm looking at some other names, and of course, SolarEdge and Enphase this morning. Yeah, I was looking at I'm a lot of times looking at SolarEdge recently because I think the energy side of things is just such a huge area and opportunity. And here's two names that should be going bonkers. SolarEdge, one of them, and they haven't, right? I mean, to me, you look at I always look at some of these names over the years that I liked. especially because they were, I wouldn't call them recession proof, but they would hold up because there's something you need, right? Trupanion is always, I always talking about, sorry if you hear like a broken record, but I used to love them because people value their pets sometimes more than family members. So if you're looking at some kind of business that's probably going to do well, even if there's a recession and people have to pick feeding their family or their significant other or feeding their pet or protecting them or getting health care, they're gonna probably pick the pet over the human. Sad as it sounds, it's so with that being said, that's why I always bullish Trupanion. I love that story. And then you look at electricity and energy, and it's happening, right? All these prices are going up in energy. If you're your utility company, whoever, it just is, and a lot of it's just obviously inflation over time. Things go up, but there's others. These people are, I remember the Bitcoin mining started years ago, and everybody was like, "What the heck is going on?" They didn't realize what was. So you had the Bitcoin mining, and those people are switching over to AI now. But it just, in the whole moral of the story is that the energy is going to continue to be in high demand. Prices are going to continue to go higher, and any name related in that space should do well, unless they don't deserve to be a company, right? The CEO should be fired or whatever. So I look at SolarEdge and Enphase. I'm like, these, well, especially SolarEdge, just, they should be doing substantially. They deserve much, in my opinion, substantially higher valuation. But market is saying otherwise. When it doesn't say otherwise, those calls and some of those names are going to be bonkers. Well, Enphase and SolarEdge this morning, they were. I mean, I was looking at the 35 strikes yesterday at SolarEdge. The weeklies were like 10 cents. They went up to $3 today. I mean, those are the kind of trades I look at, and then all you need is one or two of those a week, and it offsets some of these other moves. But I just kind of, I just want so you can wrap your head around why I'm not getting put hedges right now. Normally, I always say always be hedging, but I look at the market like it doesn't feel like an always be hedging day. I mean, if you want to put on some of the tech names, the crypto names, did great today, right? But that's just not, wasn't what I wasn't a plan today. And then the names I normally do get to put hedges on, the risk reward, like even ASML now just bounced $10 in a flash. It almost feels like a rubber band right now that if we get some kind of bounce, Shopify is at 112 now, it's gonna be 120 tomorrow, and then it's gonna be 130 by Friday. Just those are the things I might play for, but just so you kind of understand the thought process there. AMD, right? I mean, it's $200 stock. I remember last year it was $100 stock. It called the redheaded stepchild of Nvidia. So like to see it trading off here on great earnings, just kind of like repricing. Sell the news, I guess you would say, but at some point maybe things find some footing. I would expect different scenarios if we were in the midst of some kind of crazy bear market that's coming, right? And maybe it is, I don't know, but to see the market overcome all these headlines, the swings in the commodities, and and then you take a look at the yen carry trade, right? They keep talking about yields at decade highs, and it's not saying it hasn't moved markets, but maybe one day it does. To me, it's when there's no headlines. That's when I'll worry. I'm trying to think of some of the other things. After the close is Google. So, I mean, I take a look at some things that may move markets. Obviously, Google has any kind of concerns in regards to CapEx spend, any little snafus, and certainly markets could, continue tomorrow. So knock on wood. But the thing is, I'm not sitting here loaded. I haven't loaded the boat on calls and getting absolutely pummeled this week. So could be right. Today at the open, yesterday at the open too. It looked like markets might find some footing, and I came close to getting some strikes. RH today too. I mean, I keep looking at some of the names that are doing well. Oh, URI, right? United Rentals. That's another one of those names over the years I've liked because of the backdrop of the infrastructure bill, right? I mean, that's, I wouldn't call it free money, but all these contracts and things, they get fulfilled, and people have to build things. When they build things, they need to rent cranes and vehicle and things, especially companies that don't have a footing in that state. So what do? They use United Rentals, and then you see, stocks going bonkers. That's why STRL Sterling is one of my other favorite names on an infrastructure play. But you look at just its earnings a couple of days ago, it got destroyed. But watching it today. I'm like, maybe the market had it wrong because it just reversed it, and it almost looks like it's going to fill the gap. Issue with URI, premiums are nuts. You can't get a strike under 880 for a decent risk over 2 days expiration. So not going to trade that one. Those are the ones I'm watching. I think that's it. I'm out of it. Serve Robotics. 975 was the big spot. Got down to 971, sitting here at 987. It's odd to see it on single digits. I don't think it's going to stay under single digits very long, but I'm not going to sit here and say it can't get lower, right? I mean, the market's going to do what the market does. Trying to force it is just going to be painful. So hopefully find some footing here. Maybe get a little bounce at the end of the day would be phenomenal. And then if I see some opportunities I have conviction on, I mean, Reddit reports tomorrow. It's sitting here at 147. I'm looking at like the 210s, and I'm looking into next week, and I'm like, do I have this wrong? Right? And that's Serve Robotics. I know I get a lot of questions on Serve. Why do Bears have this 24% short interest on Serve Robotics? Why is there 24% short interest? I'm like, is there something? Something I'm missing? And it could, maybe their robots are third, whatever. They're not up. They're not quality. There's issues with them. I don't know. Maybe maintenance issues. To sit here and say with 100% certainty that their product's not top notch, I can't say it, right? So that maybe that's the bear case, that they have 2,000 plus robots on the road that are going to need to be replaced, at least 10% of it every year, or every 6 months, or they completely replaced, can't get fixed. I don't know that whole story. So that's something I have to definitely dig into. But to me, I don't think a company like Uber, Dash, that whole side of it would partner with a company that has subpar equipment and product. Anyway, let's have a great day. I'll probably be back on audio at 3:20 again. Hopefully we get a little footing here. Markets could find a little stability and some of these names out. So let's have a great day. We're rock and roll.